This is a demonstration of the eProcurement software suite Bellwether Purchasing Manager, also known as BPM. BPM is a fourth-generation software suite from Bellwether, incorporating the feedback of over 1,000 Bellwether clients. It features an intuitive and modern user interface, provides tools so that the software can be customized to the workflow and needs of our clients, and auto-detects the screen size of whatever device it is being used on and reformats itself so it can be used on smartphones and tablets in addition to normal PCs and desktops. In this demonstration, we're going to use the following common workflow. An end user will enter a requisition, submit it off for approval. Once the proper approvals have been given, we will then convert the requisition into a purchase order and submit the purchase order to the vendor. When the vendor sends us our items, we're going to log the receipt of the items and do a two-way match. And then when we receive the invoice from our vendor, do a three-way match, approve the invoices, and then transfer the invoice data to our accounts payable software. We begin by entering a requisition. In BPM, you have two different methods on how to enter a requisition. The first is by clicking the New Order button. Here it brings us to a very traditional requisition form. Your users may start here and simply begin adding items with the drop-down box or using predictive text. However, we're going to start this requisition in our catalog and then import the catalog information into the requisition form. In the catalog, they can search for items in a number of different ways. The first is using item categories. So today, if we're ordering office supplies, I can filter out all the non-office supply items by clicking the category. I can further search by using predictive text. Today we're ordering pens, so I type the word pen in the search box. Each letter I enter will reduce the results. I can see additional information by clicking on the item. Here it shows me all of the photos associated with the item, the description, and the list of vendors that we've previously purchased this item from in the past. The price will reflect the last time you purchased the item from that vendor, what the price was, and you can also designate a default vendor for each item. To add the item to our order, we select the quantity that we want and add it to our shopping cart. The vendor field is pre-populated with whatever the default vendor is for this item. However, if I need to change it for this order, I can do so by simply selecting a different vendor. I select the delivery date, shipping location, and which GL account. Once I select the GL account, a green box pops up and tells me that we are at 23% of the budget for this time period. If we had spent between 90 and 99% of this budget, the box would be yellow. If we had spent 100% or more of this budget, the box would be red, thereby letting the end user know before they submit it where they are in relation to the budget. They can also click on the icon and it'll bring up a breakdown of all the money spent against that budget. The second row of fields here are all custom fields that we've added to the software. We can add project fields. We can also associate a separate budget with each project. Identify which department this belongs to. And I've created just a general notes field. The rest of the fields are pre-populated with the item information that you have already entered. Once we have added the item to our order, we are now building it in our shopping cart. Next, we're going to add to our order paper. I select the quantity I'd like to add. All of the fields that were filled out in the previous line item pre-populate for this line item so that the end user doesn't have to re-enter it for each line item on the requisition. And let's say for the third item, they need to order an iPad. Even though the fields pre-populate, they can all be changed. So you can have different line items have different attributes on the same requisition. For the sake of this demo, we're going to check out and import all the catalog items into our more traditional requisition form. I put a description of the order, review the items that have been entered. In many cases, your requisitioner is now done. They click Submit, to submit this order to their approver. However, they also have the option to add notes, attachments, or additional cost information. The box on the left is for internal notes and will only be seen by those internal to my organization that have access to see this order. Typically, this would be reviewed by my approver and/or the buyer. The box on the right are for external notes. In addition to those who have access to see this order within my organization, this will also print on the purchase order and be shared with the vendor. I can also add attachments like spec sheets, drawings, or PDFs. I can also add estimated shipping, add a discount, either as a percentage of the order or as a flat dollar amount, and one or multiple tax rates. Now that I have entered all the information on my order, I'm going to submit this for approval. Now when I come back to the Your Order screen, I can see all of my orders, and I can see the requisition we just entered, requisition number 15, was submitted for approval and is in a pending approval status. I click View Approvers, and I can see who I'm waiting on to approve this. An email is generated and sent to my approver. They click Review Order to see the details of the order. They are brought to their approval screen. Here they can see all the line items that are on the order that are waiting for their approval. They can click on View Order before they approve or reject the order. Here they get a breakdown of all the details of the order, including the total dollar amount, discounts, shipping, taxes, each line item, and the budget for each line item, including how much has been allocated towards the total budget and what the total budget allocation is. They want to see a breakdown before they approve or reject. They can click on the budget details. They can also see both the internal and the external notes filled out by the requisitioner and review any attachments. To approve or reject the order, simply select the order and click Approve or Reject. If we're going to reject the order and want to give a reason to the requisitioner, we put a little message in as well. For the sake of our demo, we're going to approve this order to continue with the workflow. The requisitioner can now see requisition number 15 has been approved. Next, the buyer or purchasing agent will convert the approved requisition into a purchase order. At this point, they can select the entire order and create a purchase order, or they can select specific items and create multiple purchase orders from a single requisition. We could take the first two line items, order it from our office supply vendor, and then come back and create a separate purchase order for the third line item and order it from an IT vendor. For the sake of simplicity with our demo, we're going to go ahead and take all three line items and create our purchase order. All of the details pre-fill that the requisitioner has already filled out. All the buyer or the purchasing agent needs to do is review and/or edit or add additional information. Here we can see the three line items that were already filled out, the quantities, the dollar amount, the internal and the external notes, the attachments, which the buyer can also review if they so choose to, shipping, discounts, and taxes. The buyer can make any changes that are necessary to the order and then submit the order to their vendor. The Send To field pre-populates with all of the contacts that are on the vendor record. We can also put in an email message. And we send the purchase order off to our vendor. To check all of our open purchase orders, we can now see PO number 15 was sent to our vendor and it is in a Sent To Vendor status. The vendor receives this email. This email does not have any attachments, so it does not get caught up in spam filters or antivirus filters. Instead, the vendor clicks this link to see the purchase order information. Here they can see the spec sheet, only the external notes, not the internal notes that were not meant to be sent to them, and all the line item information. Additionally, we have added a global setting of terms and conditions, so all of our purchase orders will include these T's and C's. If the vendor would like to see a more traditional purchase order form, they can download the purchase order form, save it to their desktop, and view and/or print it out directly from this email. The email that was sent to the vendor does not include any attachments to prevent it from being caught up in filters. It also sends a message back to Bellwether when that link is clicked, letting us know that the vendor has now received that purchase order. When I refresh this screen, you will notice the status change from Sent to Vendor to Vendor Received. So you now know your vendor has received it. This is helpful for our clients that would like to know if there's an issue with their purchase order the day after they send it, or even a few hours after they send it and they're expecting their vendor to have received it. If the vendor has not received it, you want to find out why. Maybe your vendor contact has gone on vacation or left the organization. Either way, it lets the buyer or the purchasing agent know that there might be an issue with this purchase order. If we do not have this notification, the only way to know is to wait until after the delivery date of the item, which may be a week or more. Now that the purchase order has been sent to the vendor will be shipping us our items. We come to the receiving module to log receipt and do a two-way match. I can scan in and upload the packing slip, enter the packing slip number, the receipt date. If I'm the person receiving this order and all three items are here in full quantity, I can simply select the entire order and select receive. So with 2 mouse clicks, I can completely receive and close out this purchase order. However, if we have not received everything on this order, we want to log receipt of this so we can keep track of items that we're expecting in future shipments. For example, let's say we've only received 5 of the 10 packages of pens. We did receive all 8 cases of the paper, and we received the Apple iPad, however it was damaged. So we're going to put in 1 rejected and note the reason. At a later point in time, we'll receive a second shipment against this purchase order. Let's say we have now received the other 5 packages of the Sharpie pens, but we're still waiting on the replacement iPad to be sent. In the Overdue tab, we can see any orders that have a line item where the delivery date is in the past. So here we can see we have 1 line item that is overdue, and we will call or email our vendor to get the status. The last step in our workflow is to match up the invoice that our vendor has sent us. For PO number 15, first we log the invoice number, the date we received the invoice. Once we enter the date, BPM will calculate for us the due date based on our terms code. If we want to, we can also scan in and attach the invoice. The purpose of this screen is to do a 3-way match and confirm that the invoice from our vendor is correct. When we click Submit from this screen, we are essentially saying we owe this vendor by this date, this dollar amount. The invoice they've sent me is correct. When I click Submit, what we are essentially saying is we okay to pay this invoice, and this invoice will then be added to the batch of invoices transferred over to your accounts payable software. If this number does not match what is on the invoice, you want to confirm that the shipping amount is correct, your discounts, your taxes, and all the line items and quantities that they're billing you for on the invoice are all correct. For this example, let's say that we estimated shipping at $25, but really it came in at $23. Our discount was correct and our taxes were correct. And if this number now matches what is on the invoice from our vendor, we click Submit and we okay to pay this invoice. However, if this number still does not match, we want to confirm that the items on the invoice match up to the items that we have actually received from our vendor. So here we can see how many we've ordered, how many we've received, any items we've rejected, and any items that have also been previously invoiced. The black pens, we've received 10 out of the 10 items that we ordered, as well as the cases of paper, 8 out of 8. However, the Apple iPad, we have rejected. So we should not be paying for this on this invoice. If the vendor is trying to charge us $377 more than what this invoice dollar amount is, we know exactly what it is, and we can contact our vendor to let them know that we'll short pay this and they should re-invoice us on a separate invoice, and we'll pay for that invoice when they send us our replacement iPad. However, let's say that the pricing that they are charging us is less than the dollar amount that's on this invoice. And we look and we see they're only charging us for 5 Sharpie pens because we have received the Sharpie pens in 2 shipments, quantity 5 in the first shipment and quantity 5 in the second shipment. So once I enter the quantity of 5, it recalculates. If this number is now correct, we click Submit and OK to pay this invoice. At a later point in time, they'll be sending us another invoice that will match up for the remaining 5 Sharpie pens, and we're still waiting on the iPad replacement, so we do not pay it on this invoice. Then at a later point in time, we will pay for the iPad once they send us a replacement. It will populate the invoice module and let you know once it's received in the receiving module. Now that we have completed matching up all the invoices, we're going to transfer the data over to our accounts payable software. Come into the invoice export screen, process the invoices, download the CSV file, We take the CSV file and then we go over to our accounts payable software and import it. We can create the CSV file to be in any format, including any data fields that you would like to from Bellwether. And you can format this in any order that your accounts payable software requires. BPM also has extensive reporting. In addition to providing you with immediate information about the most common types of reports, you also have the ability to create custom reports. To create a custom report, you first name your report, select what you would like to report on, and then select the fields that you would like to add to your report. If you'd like to change the order, simply select the item and move it. You can also add filters. So if we want to, we can filter by the date, by a project, by a department. Maybe a GL account. And then before we run the report, we do a preview to confirm that the data is correct. We click Save and Run, so that now we do not have to do this every time we want to run this report. So it provides me with the report information, and I can also download the report and open it up in Excel or whatever my spreadsheet program is. Once the data is exported to Excel, we can merge this with other documents, sort this, and slice and dice the data however we want. Now my report will show up, and I can come and run this custom report anytime I choose. Thank you for your interest in Bellwether Purchasing Manager. Please contact us to schedule a personal demo.